Millions of Americans just lost their jobs, not because of a market crash or a natural disaster, but because of a policy. On January 10th, Donald Trump unveiled sweeping new tariffs on Chinese imports, a 60% blanket tax that sent shockwaves through every major U.S. industry. The fallout was immediate. From assembly lines in Michigan to cargo docks in California, layoffs exploded overnight. Entire supply chains snapped. Prices surged. And while Washington called it economic defense, for workers on the ground, it felt like betrayal. This isn't just another trade war. It's a seismic shift in how America does business. And the question now is, did Trump just protect the U.S. economy or set it on fire? In early 2025, Donald Trump returned to the global stage with a policy shock that stunned economists and split the country. A sweeping 60% tariff on all Chinese imports, more than double the rate from his first term. Branded as a patriotic push to bring jobs back to America, the policy was rolled out with thunderous applause from conservative strongholds. But beneath the surface, the reaction was far from unified. Major corporations warned of instant cost spikes. Retailers rushed to stockpile foreign goods before prices soared. Small businesses, already reeling from inflation and pandemic aftershocks, feared they couldn't survive another economic blow. Within weeks, their fears became reality. Industries deeply tied to Chinese supply chains, electronics, automotive, textiles, construction, were hit hardest. Layoffs began within days, and by February, over 2 million jobs had been erased from the economy, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Yet Trump stood firm. "We're taking back control," he declared at a Pennsylvania rally, "and if China doesn't like it, tough." But this isn't just about tariffs or trade. This is about an entire economic model being stress-tested, live, in real time, with American workers caught in the middle. The consequences didn't take months, they took days. As the new tariffs took effect, U.S. factories and retailers that relied on Chinese parts and materials faced a brutal choice: absorb the costs, raise prices, or cut labor. Most chose the third. In Detroit, a major auto parts manufacturer laid off 1,200 workers after raw material prices jumped 45% overnight. In Los Angeles, a tech assembly plant furloughed its entire second shift. Across the Midwest, warehouses and logistics hubs started issuing pink slips, one truckload at a time. By the end of February, the U.S. had recorded its worst job loss in a single month since the 2020 pandemic. Sectors like construction, electronics, and home appliances saw double-digit declines in hiring. Small business bankruptcies surged 34%, according to Bloomberg. Zimmer, along with any uphill recession. Consumers weren't spared either. With import costs soaring, everyday products, smartphones, kitchen goods, clothing, saw price spikes of 15–30%. Middle-class Americans, already stretched thin, began pulling back spending, sending shockwaves through the broader economy. What began as a targeted economic strike on China had turned into a domestic boomerang, crashing back onto the very workers it promised to defend. As layoffs swept across the industrial belt, the broader economy began to buckle. Consumer confidence dropped to its lowest point since 2008, according to Gallup. The Dow plunged 1,200 points in a single week as investors priced in mass layoffs, shrinking profits, and a looming slowdown. Inflation, thought to be cooling, reignited with a vengeance. Prices surged, not just for imports, but for American-made products too, as domestic producers passed on their higher input costs, food costs, Grocery chains reported nationwide price hikes. Hardware stores struggled to keep shelves stocked. Major retailers like Walmart and Target issued profit warnings. And while the White House insisted the tariffs were a necessary sacrifice for long-term sovereignty, the average American was already paying the price. Meanwhile, small business lending froze as banks tightened credit. Home construction slowed, fuel costs spiked, and fears of a recession returned to the headlines. Even sectors not directly tied to China, hospitality, services, and healthcare, began to feel the ripple effects as spending dried up and uncertainty loomed. Trump's tariffs weren't just hitting China. They were hitting everything. Fast, wide, and without a safety net. And for many Americans, the shock was just beginning. In Ohio, single mother and assembly line worker Carla Jenkins was called into her manager's office and handed a severance envelope. 20 years gone in 5 minutes, she said, holding back tears. Her plant, which built air conditioning units using Chinese components, couldn't afford the new tariff burden. Carla was one of 600 let go overnight. In Arizona, small business owner Jamal Rodriguez shuttered his family-run electronics store after suppliers doubled prices. "We backed Trump because he promised to help businesses like mine," Jamal said. "Now I'm out of work, and so are my employees." And across the country, political support began to fracture. GOP governors in Pennsylvania and Georgia, both key swing states, criticized the tariff rollout as economically reckless. Labor unions, once aligned with Trump's protectionist rhetoric, began organizing protests. Even some Trump allies in Congress called for immediate exemptions for critical goods. Meanwhile, Democratic leaders seized the moment, labeling the crisis Trump's economic meltdown and demanding stimulus packages for impacted workers. The backlash wasn't just partisan, it was populist. Across red and blue states, American workers who once cheered America first were now wondering if they'd become collateral damage in a war they never signed up for. To Trump's inner circle, this wasn't chaos, it was recalibration. The 60% tariff was never just about punishing China, it was about forcing a long-overdue restructuring of America's economic dependencies. "Short-term pain, long-term sovereignty," one former White House trade advisor said off the record. But experts aren't so sure. According to a March 2025 report from the Peterson Institute, over 72% of U.S. manufacturers still rely on Chinese parts, and shifting supply chains takes years, not weeks. In the meantime, production stalls, prices rise, and competitors overseas fill the gap. Beijing, for its part, didn't retaliate with counter-tariffs. Instead, it doubled down on expanding digital yuan settlements and regional trade pacts. Drawing in U.S. allies and accelerating the very financial decoupling Washington fears. Economists warn that unless a targeted industrial policy follows these tariffs, the U.S. risks weakening itself more than its rival. And with elections looming, Trump is betting that economic nationalism, even if painful, will rally his base. But the question remains. Can the U.S. rebuild domestic production fast enough to justify the fallout? Or will this gamble go down as a strategic misfire that fractured global trade and left American workers in the wreckage? The tariffs were sold as a solution, a bold move to restore American strength and independence. But the reality unfolding across the country tells a different story. Millions of jobs lost. Thousands of businesses shuttered. Prices up, confidence down, and a working class left wondering who this war was really for. Trump supporters say it's a necessary correction, a hard reset to break free from foreign reliance. Critics argue it's reckless economics wrapped in nationalism. But one fact is undeniable. American families are paying the price right now. Meanwhile, global players like China aren't just reacting, they're advancing. While the U.S. economy staggers through short-term shocks, Beijing is offering cheaper financing, faster trade rails, and a vision of the future that doesn't include the dollar. So, is this the dawn of American renewal or the opening act of economic isolation? Let us know what you think in the comments. Has Trump's tariff war gone too far? Or is this the pain we need to rebuild? If you found this breakdown valuable, hit subscribe for more real stories behind the headlines. Because in today's world, economics isn't just policy. It's power. And power always comes with a price.